All right, let's dive right in. Welcome to today's Explainer, the 100 Hostile Students, How a Divided Majority Loses. We're going to unpack a super fascinating story today that completely exposes the hidden mechanics of group decision-making. It starts with a really simple argument over breakfast, but by the end, it's going to reveal a profound truth about human behavior, preference, and power.
So, here's the core mystery we're unraveling. How on earth can 20 people outvote 80 people in a totally fair, transparent election? I mean, on the surface, the math literally makes zero sense. You'd think the 80 people hold absolutely all the leverage, right? But as you'll see, raw numbers don't always guarantee you a win. To figure out how this mathematical impossibility actually happens, we need to look at a very specific scenario.
Section 1. The Breakfast Dilemma. Let's set the scene in a place a lot of us can probably relate to, a student hostel.
Picture this. You've got exactly 100 students living under one roof. Every single morning, these 100 students stumble down to the dining hall, and every single morning, they are served the exact same meal. Bread and butter. Monday, bread and butter. Thursday, bread and butter. It's like a never-ending loop. Now, obviously, in any group of 100 people, you're naturally going to get some wildly different reactions to that kind of relentless repetition.
And that brings us to the first faction. Out of the 100 students, a whopping 80 of them were completely fed up. I mean, they were murmuring in the halls, complaining to each other, just totally sick and tired of eating the exact same thing every single day. They desperately craved variety. They wanted something, anything, new on their plates. And keep in mind, this group represents a massive 80% majority.
But then you have the remaining 20 students. And honestly, surprisingly enough, they actually liked the bread and butter. They were perfectly happy with the daily menu. So because they were satisfied, they just didn't complain. They quietly ate their breakfast and stayed totally silent. Sure, they were the minority, but they were perfectly aligned in exactly what they wanted.
Section 2. The Demand for Change. Those 80 unhappy students, they finally decide that just murmuring in the hallways isn't going to cut it anymore. It is time for action.
So this massive majority marches right up to the hostel supervisor and demands a change to the menu. The 20 who actually liked the bread and butter, well, they just kept right on being completely silent. Now the supervisor decides to handle this whole thing democratically. Step 1, he hears their complaints. Step 2, he presents a meal chart with a bunch of different, exciting breakfast options. And Step 3, he announces they're going to hold a formal vote. The rule is crystal clear. The single dish that gets the most votes is what will be served to everyone from now on. For the 80 unhappy students, this seems like an absolute slam dunk.
Section 3. The Surprising Math. Okay, so the votes are cast and the ballots are collected. Naturally, you'd expect this massive 80-person majority demanding change to just sweep the selection with no problem at all, right?
Well, the vote count comes in and no way. Against all odds, it's 20 votes for bread and butter, 18 for noodles, 16 for egg toast, and the rest of the votes are just completely scattered across the other options. The very meal that 80% of the entire hostel actively hated actually wins the election. I mean, how is that even possible?
Here is exactly how. When it came time to actually vote, those 80 students who wanted change didn't all want the same change. They divided their votes. Some really wanted noodles, some wanted egg toast, and others picked totally different things. That intense craving for variety completely fractured their massive voting power. But what about the united minority? Those 20 silent students just stuck together. They all voted for the exact same thing. Their unity completely overpowered the scattered, divided majority.
Section 4. The Power of Unity. Because of exactly how those votes fell, the supervisor just followed his own rules. The dish with the most votes wins.
And as a result, bread and butter gets served right back to the entire hostel. All 100 students, including the 80 who specifically organized a protest against it, were right back to eating the exact same boring breakfast. And that brings us to this absolutely crucial point. As long as 80% of people are divided by their own preferences, the remaining 20% will continue to rule over them. Let me just say that again, because it's the ultimate takeaway from our explainer today. A smaller group moving perfectly in sync is almost always going to defeat a larger group that's busy pulling in a dozen different directions. Unity acts like a force multiplier, while division just completely dilutes your power.
So I really want to leave you with this final thought. Where do you see this exact dynamic playing out in your own life right now? Think about it.
Whether it's in a massive corporate boardroom, a local community organization, or honestly, even just trying to decide where to eat dinner with a big group of friends. Look out for those silent, united minorities and the loud, completely divided majorities. The math of those 100 hostile students is literally everywhere once you start looking for it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep looking closely at the structures around you.